want to welcome you all to The Gateway.
The Gateway is a video podcast directed and hosted by staff members of Somerset Community College's student newspaper, The Bridge.
This is The Gateway.
Hello, SEC! Welcome back to SEC's The Gateway. I'm your host, Eli Parker.
And I'm Michaela Scott.
And today with us, we have two very important ladies with us representing SEC's The Common Read, Miss Amie Slevin and Erin Johnson. Thank you all for joining with us. More specifically, they're the co-chairs of The Common Read, as well as the heads of the Common Read Committee. So would you two like to give just an overview, because you've all been on the podcast before. And so there's a video out on that, and we can link that, and just, if you haven't seen it already, give it another look. But for those that haven't seen, can you give us just a little overview of what the Common Read is exactly?
Basically, we're just trying to create a community within SEC and then also throughout the community here in Somerset, and just kind of unite each other through a common read title. So this semester's title is Crucial Conversations, and I have not read. I've got to get on that. I'm gonna like blame my ill preparedness on my maternity leave. I'm just coming back today, so I haven't read the book yet, but I know Amy has been reading that with her classes, and she can probably talk a little bit more about that. But in the past, we have done panel events. We did one last fall, one last spring, and I think we're going to do another one with this book coming up next month, and we'll probably talk more about that here in a minute. But we've done those. We've had student contests that we did last semester, and we gave away prizes for that. So just trying to create a sense of community here on campus through a common read title.
That's
It's kind of what we try to do.
That's wonderful. First of all, congratulations. And second,
Thank you.
How long has the Common Read been around? And who officially started it?
Marcy has started that, and I want to say, has it been 6 or 7 years ago now? Because we've had probably 6 or 7 books, so it's probably been about 6 years or so that it's been around. I want to say this might be the 7th year.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's great. I feel like it's been around longer, but and so you've dealt with both doing this before, without COVID, and during. And so speaking of which, how have you all adapted with COVID? Because I know you used to you met and together in person and had your discussions. How's that been then during COVID?
Right. Amy, do you want to?
Yeah, so I became co-chair with Erin just right when COVID hit. So I was part of the committee, and I've been with SCC now 3 years, so I'm still a bit of a newbie. But I was part of the committee when we were still doing face-to-face meetings and events, and so I was able to really kind of see how all of that transpired. And we were able to kind of move some of that camaraderie to the virtual events through Teams. We do a couple live feeds on our SEC Common Read Facebook group, and so it was a little difficult to kind of think outside of the box, but I'm very thankful we live in the 21st century because we were able to really kind of spread the word. And I know a couple FYE classes, my English class, as well as some other English classes, were able to actually adapt the book and spread the word that way. So so coming on board to Common Read about a couple years ago, I was able to really kind of see how Marcy Randall and Mike Goldman and a few others were able to get the word out in a more traditional face-to-face environment, and then using that and using their guidance, we were able to really kind of bring it into the virtual land.
So when was it that you did your first virtual event? Covering what?
That was last year, I would say, right?
It was a great way to welcome us in and kind of give us a hazing, I guess. You just get to hit the ground running, and everything's changed. So.
Yeah, and that was last year with Educated, right?
Yes, last year.
And it was very awkward because, but awkward in a good sense, if that could be said, because I think everybody in the community was also trying to transition, but also try to find a way to communicate with one another and reach a kind of to use the same word over and over again, a commonality, and just to kind of find a way to open up lines of communication. And so we did a virtual forum event that focused on COVID and education through the book Educated. And so we had a really good online conversation with a couple panelists, among which were some faculty members, community members, and even some students, and actually some students from, it was the Bridge, right? Yeah, yeah, who were able to come on board and share some ideas. And it was just very, it was able to really kind of shine a light on how, COVID was really affecting everybody, and how the book was also able to really kind of showcase not only formal education, but also informal education and educational values within family. So it was really, like I said, it was a little awkward, but on the other hand, the way everybody embraced it, and the co-leadership, and just even being able to be on the podcast really kind of really showed how open and warm and just accepting the community was for this new, very odd time period.
Oh yeah, definitely. So the transition did go over smoother than expected.
I think we hit a few lumps and bumps, especially with the student contest.
But we learned along the way, and I think actually the title "Educated" was really appropriate given the circumstances that we were all going through. So.
Well, yeah,
definitely a metaphor.
Yeah.
So let's flash back pre-COVID. All can you describe the kind of books you covered and what you all did exactly? Just to dive more into that.
My first year here, it was Celia a Slave was the title that they were using, and kind of going back into pre-COVID world and some of the events that they did. That was incorporated into our John Sherman Cooper lecture event that they do every year, and we were able to have that author come on campus, and he was able to talk and give a presentation. So that was one way that was incorporated. And then we've had other books. I know they've done George Orwell's 1984.
A good one.
Do you remember any other ones? I'm trying to think. Of course, those were all pre-me and you.
Right,
they were before we actually started working, but...
Not right off the top of my head, unfortunately. But they were all pre-us, so...
We're still pretty new to this, too.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you all are doing a wonderful job so far, especially during these, like you said, really strange times. So how did you do the events? Tell us more about the events. What did you do for the books?
Well, like I said, we did have the author for that one. I know he came on campus and was able to give a presentation to students, and he even signed copies of the books for the students and anybody else who wanted their copy signed. And he had questions and answer sessions with students. And then I know that Marcy's class in particular, she has held book discussion meetings as part of her classroom curriculum, where everybody goes around and talks openly about different things, and she has discussion questions that they do. And I know that you do stuff like that in your classes, and other instructors do as well. Do you know of anything else? Can you think of other ways that we've incorporated our common read?
Yeah.
And panel events. We did live panel events before as well, and so those are a little more. I don't know. You can interact with people a little bit easier, but
yeah. And actually, for my class, I teach English 102 and 101, and for Educated, what I did for my English 101 class is I guess I still am a professional writer, and so what I did was I took a few chapters from Educated, and I used it as a guide to have my students see how to write a memoir and a narrative, and how to tell a story, and not that writing is just some boring thing where you have to write essays all the time, that actually you can learn from it and share an experience. So that's how I use the book in my class. And this year we're using Crucial Conversations, and the two main authors are Patterson, not James Patterson, but and Macmillan. And it's more of a technical book that really kind of focuses on how to navigate very sensitive issues like vaccines, COVID, all the way up to negotiating for a raise. And so it's very much more of a technical book. And so in my class, and even my English 102 class, we look at how those tactics can be used in a career, educational setting. And we're actually having a live panel event November 4th. And it'll be on our Facebook live stream, and it'll also be through Microsoft Teams at 11 a.m. So that way faculty can actually interact with their classes in a safe environment. And community members, if they can't make it, through the Teams link, they can join through our Facebook live feed and interact with our panelists.
So is there still like a physical panel, or is it just everyone individual joining on the Zoom call?
So that's fine. Our panel will actually be in a room together. So we will have physical people there, and then we will have a Teams call for the faculty and students on campus, and then we will also have a live Facebook feed for community members who maybe aren't a part of the community college, but who also want to call in and communicate. Call in. Gosh, it does sound like a radio call-in show. So that way, again, it's a little bit more interactive, but we're still able to have the event in a safe environment because of COVID.
Of course. Like, I got a good quote today saying, like, putting these events together, you want to find a safe way, but you still want everyone to kind of get together to do something. And it seems like the Common Read is a perfect way to do that. So ever since you all went virtual, it's always been virtual since then, somewhat?
Yeah, especially since last year. Now that we are able to do more face-to-face interactions, with the masks and safe distance, of course, we are trying to work with a few other groups to see how we can incorporate the Common Read with that. And next semester, spring semester, and we're still working on this, we're hoping to showcase another student art exhibition along with the Arno Conference, which is part of the English department. And so we'll be working with them. I think it's April 7th through the 9th.
Ooh.
So that way, again, students will receive a prompt according to Crucial Conversations, which we are still TBA about. And students will be able to create, maybe a spoken word poem, a video or a prose or something, and they can also showcase it outside before our Arno Writing Conference, which is that weekend. So that way the community can see what we're doing, how creative we are when it comes to these sensitive issues, and then that'll transition into our Appalachian writers.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Wonderful. Yeah. And Michaela, you said you were really into writing. You're actually wanting to be an English teacher.
Yes, yeah, I am. So that's the ultimate goal. I hadn't ever heard of the Common Read until I knew that you guys were coming onto the podcast. So,
wow.
I definitely want to get in on that book and, see what it's all about and give it a read. Maybe participate in some of these, definitely the Microsoft Teams forum and everything. I think that'd be really interesting, especially, as someone going to be an English teacher, that might help me with my students, later on down the line.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the nice thing about the book is it is very, it's technical, but it's very easy to read and easy to follow. And so it's not too rough or too choppy. And so I've enjoyed that. And I think as an English instructor, you're going to enjoy it. And it's going to be very helpful, especially learning how to navigate sensitive issues that might pop up in the classroom.
Yeah.
So.
So going back to the book, Crucial Conversations, the authors. So kind of diving into more what the book's about. Would this cover anything some controversial about mask mandates? Because that's very applicable, not only in the school system here at SEC, but just everywhere around.
Yeah. So what the book does is it really kind of breaks down what those conversations are, what a crucial conversation literally is, how to approach it, and also how to kind of communicate with another person when you're approached with sensitive issues like mask mandates, vaccines, maybe even racism. So instead of shying away from it, or as what they refer to as dialogue killers, either combating one another or saying, my way is better than this way, they kind of teach you different tactics, like how to look at your emotions and look at the other side of the conversation and find that what's called a common pool of reasoning. So it really kind of teaches you how to empathize, how to listen, how to actively listen, and how to approach those issues, in a very common, open manner.
I don't need to read the book now. I'm kidding. That sounds like something I'd really want to look into. I think everyone should look into that, especially now more than ever.
And it sounds super applicable to what we do. I mean, here interviewing and everything, and with our articles at the Bridge and everything. So that would, definitely be another good reason for us to read it.
Yeah, definitely. Active listening right there.
Yeah.
I definitely need help with that sometimes. Yeah, with Jeff and Stuart going on and on. But no, that does sound like a very helpful, wonderful book. And speaking of which, the book, for past and current, how do, if people don't have the book, how do they access it? Is there a how do you access it? Maybe?
So if students and faculty or even community members want to go to SCC's Common Read on Facebook, we do have a link where they can access it through Amazon or our bookstore, of course. And so they're able to do that. And we even have these lovely little bookmarks that, thanks to Stuart and the print shop, that we just have out. And there's a little QR code that you can
I like that.
See, I didn't know that.
really
yeah,
cool.
we fancy.
That is really neat.
I still have my bookmark. I'm reading Narnia right now. I use my bookmark from Cecilia Slave for that one.
Yay.
I still have it because I remember for class we were taking in that meeting. That was really enjoyable. So I guess that's my little experience with it there.
Never underestimate the power of a bookmark.
Oh, never. Got to have something there. So, has there been anything that people, active members in this that have participated, have they said anything that's because do you lead the conversation with it, or how does that work?
Oh, for when it comes to moderating the forum?
Essentially, yes.
That's a good question. So this will be my first time moderating the forum. Last year, Marcy Randall did it, right? Yeah. And so what we typically do is we have a forum of at least 4 or 5 people, and we try to mix it with faculty, community members, and students, so we have a nice diverse group. And we usually come up with at least a few open-ended questions, the moderator does, and she sends that out to some folks. So that way we have at least a starting point, so we have some good flow of conversation. And we're probably going to do that the same way. Right now, I believe we have a few faculty members, and we would love it if you guys would join us as well. So we open that invitation to you all. And it's going to go about the same way. I'm going to send out a couple open-ended questions or topics so that we can just kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, definitely. Or the questions and stuff sent out prior, so people going into it have an expectation, or?
Yeah, so it's just kind of a little bit like a conversation starter, so that way we can kind of look at a couple different ideas. I believe the forum this year is Crucial Conversations, Negotiating COVID, education.
I have it right. Navigating COVID, education, relationships. I got the exact form right here, so that came in handy.
Yeah, we also wanted to kind of look at poverty in Kentucky as well, because a lot of these have popped up. A lot of these issues have popped up not only in our curriculum, but also with the rise of the mask mandates and the vaccine and things like that. All of these issues have been popping up, and of course, the book really is pivotal to show how we as a community can talk about this in a very civil, open manner. We don't have to be harsh or cruel or downtrodden each other.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And going on to more about COVID issues, I say it goes more beyond than just the mask mandate and the spreading and vaccine, but also the domino effect it's had, unemployment, for instance, and the stimulus checks, because that's promoted a lot of unemployment. Does it cover any of that in there?
It can. Like I said, we look at all the issues that it'll encompass. It doesn't just have to focus on the specific ones. So it's really meant to open that discussion forum and open those areas.
Oh, yeah. Have any of these discussions gotten like very controversial? Because I'm sure covering this, it can get controversial.
Yeah. Hence why the moderator's there.
Yeah. Like everyone stops, so I got pulled apart.
Yeah. Let's put the gloves down.
Or put the gloves on. I mean, with COVID and all that.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
So, during COVID, do you think that we've kind of forgotten how to be empathetic?
Oh,
I think it's very easy to, because you're not seeing somebody face to face. It's a little easier to say things that you might not say to somebody in person. So I think, you kind of lose that sensitivity to people's feelings. And plus you can't see people's reactions or their emotion. You kind of lose that part of your communication, and you have to be careful how you word things, and when you're communicating virtually and through emails and
yes, tone and
yes.
I always tell
about that.
I always tell my students, always look at your audience, think about tone, think about attitude, think about how you're communicating something to someone. And my favorite example is if you send a text to someone and they reply, "It's fine." When is it ever really fine? Yeah, and so but yeah, I think the concept of empathy, our society, and I mean our society as a whole, not just Somerset, but Kentucky and even our nation. I think we are in the process of relearning that and reviewing it and trying to figure out how to effectively communicate with one another. And it can be hard. Like, I've gotten into some sensitive conversations with some of my neighbors, and I've had to excuse myself because it's gotten heated. So, but
I feel like Facebook already kind of makes people less empathetic, because they're like, oh, it's on a screen, like I don't have to face this person. And now I feel like COVID has made it even worse, because that was the only way that we could communicate with each other for a while. And I feel like people just haven't gotten back into I'm going to have to see these people face to face soon. I better watch what I say. And yeah, or they don't care.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Apathy is a big concern as well. And I agree with you. I think it's the virtual world is so brand new, I think, still, and it's got the mode of communication has just rapidly increased, even over the past 50 years, if you think about it. And so when you have that screen in front of you, yes, there's some positive in the fact that we can do all of this. We can communicate with each other still. I mean, we can even just, when quarantine happened, I could shoot her an email or a text or a video conference just like that. But again, 50 years ago, or even longer than that, if I wanted to, let's go 100 years ago, if I wanted to talk to you, I'd have to send you a carrier pigeon? Just kidding. Yeah, or if I wanted to send someone not an email, that's 100 years ago, that didn't happen, but, a letter, they wouldn't have that. I mean, if you look at history, how many wars or everything like that happened because communication was just so lacking. So anyways, there's a positive and a negative to the virtual world. And I do agree with you, Michaela, that, when you have that screen in front of you, it's so easy to distance yourself from sensitive issues. But then when you have to meet in front with that person, you're like, so, yeah.
Sorry about that thing that I said. That wasn't nice.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, it can be positive because we can still communicate with one another. We can still learn from one another. We can still, in a lot of ways work, and do our jobs. But I think we're still learning about it because, again, if you look at the virtual communication history, all this happened literally in the past 50 years. The internet has been up since, I'm going to date myself here, since the 90s. That's when it really started putting its foot up. So,
and it's just changing
so fast.
It's just constantly changing. New things come about.
So I don't know. That's my 2 cents, though. I feel like, but I'm the optimist, so I always feel like, we can learn from it. We can, learn from each other. We need to build empathy. We need to build sympathy. But yeah, then sometimes you just need to watch a cat video and just relax.
Yes. Into that. And touching more on the positive side, like there's a lot of negative to discuss, of course, but to be on the optimistic side, can it also be used as a means to like connect people better? Not just saying, oh, I can talk to this person in China within a few seconds, but also, well, for example, people that are more kind of like to themselves, like out in public, they can be more expressive. I include myself in this because I'm often like it. Can be more expressive in what they post and be like show more empathy and sympathy.
That's true too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you want to take that one?
No, I was just going to say that's true too. And I'm the same way. I'm often, and I find that I can, a lot of times, if there's something I want to say to somebody, if I type it out, and I'm not, y'all know, obviously by now, I'm not the best public speaker. So, but if I can type something out and read it, and, I feel like I can communicate better that way a lot of times than I can if I'm speaking to somebody directly. So I see what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think that could be the case.
Mm-hmm. And maybe that's how people also connect with the common read, because one, it connects them all together, and second, just in a more literary sense where they can analyze and then talk about that and share thoughts with other people about it and get other perspective.
Yeah, and I really personally like using a lot of the virtual methods to communicate and also especially teach, because as you pointed out, like students who are very introverted or who just kind of have a problem communicating in class, that's really helped me as an educator, because then these students are able to communicate their ideas on the discussion board, or they can post it on the live chat when we have a virtual class. So as an educator, I feel like I'm able to actually communicate more with my students as a whole than in a traditional face-to-face classroom. So,
and people who might not typically ask a question or something like that may be more willing to do so virtually, or post it in a discussion board or on the chat feature on Teams.
Yeah.
And like that, we're rolling in on our time there, but I just want to say it's been wonderful having you all, and it's just been very insightful going from just talking about what the common read is and the bigger picture of it and the intent of it is just very, like I said, insightful. There's no better word for it, I think. So thank you all very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
For more information on SCC student newspaper, The Bridge, or the Gateway Video Podcast, email us at sccthebridge@yahoo.com or contact one of the course advisors.
This is the Gateway signing out.
3, 2, 1.